Hello everyone, this is Andy from electricpetrolhead, and this is
5 things that he hates about Tesla Model S.
There we go, let's get on with it.
Niggly things.
I'll be honest, the Tesla Model S is a really good car. There's not a lot that I can really moan about, but in the true YouTuber sense, it's important to, go over the negatives. And I'm a big fan of Tesla, but I try not to be the stereotypical fanboy who can see no wrong with the cars, because there are problems. And I know people who have had sort of cars break down and stop working, but in my close circle of sort of Tesla owning friends, none of us really had any major problems. So it's just niggly things. And that brings us on to the sort of number one, and that's just the niggly little problems that you could do without. So the main sort of niggly things I've had is I have the rattle on I think it's the front drive shafts, and everyone says it's not a problem, it's not going to affect the car. It's one of those things that I'd rather didn't have to put up with and didn't have to get sorted out, and I'm sure Tesla would rather not have to go through the expense and time of sorting out the problem, but at the same time it is something that me as an owner has to put up with, and it's just annoying, especially if you're demoing the car to a potential owner and you accelerate and they go, "What's that rattle?" It's not really particularly good, is it? The other thing is I've had the front headlights replaced because one of the LED strips was starting to wear out, and over time they do wear out, which is again a niggly annoying thing. It's not the end of the world, the lights still work, it just looks a bit crap. And you get occasional little bugs and stuff with the software. Sometimes the autopilot cameras either get misted up or don't work, and it's just niggly things. So that's number one.
Interior and trim quality.
So the second bit is kind of niggly things again, but it's to do with the trim, and it's little sort of things that, like trim panels that aren't quite as sort of well seated as they could be. I've got a seal above my right shoulder that doesn't quite cover the gap, and there's other sort of bits of trim that can get a bit loose, and it's one of those things that I'm not too fussed by. I love my cars, but I'm not the type of person to keep them absolutely pristine. I drive them, I get them dirty, we have dogs in the car, we have my daughters in the car, they get crumbs everywhere. I'm not precious about the car. However, I think for the price, especially of the Model S and Model X, these type of things should be better. And on an overall basis, I personally quite like the interior. I think it's minimalist, and it works. The latest style of Tesla seat I think is a lot better than the previous seat. I've got no problems with it. The steering wheel, the controls, everything else is pretty good. But there's movement and stuff, and there's improvements to be made. However, I can fully see Tesla's ideology, which is let's get the batteries and the motors and the technology as good as possible, because that's the priority in an electric car. And then in the future, I'm sure the interiors are going to get better and better. And I know that the Model 3, although it has a few little niggles, it's generally pretty well put together, and from what I'm hearing, the Model Y is even better. So they're getting better all the time. Yeah, number two, trim quality, interior quality, just little niggly things. So 1 and 2 are very similar in that respect. So on to number 3.
Size.
So number 3 is an interesting criticism of the Model S, and it's the same with the Model X, and that's the size for UK driving. In a lot of ways, the Model 3 is a better car for the UK market. It's smaller, it fits into car parking spaces better. The Model S has a gorgeous, voluptuous butt on it, but it's big, and it's a big car to park anywhere. But then that's not really a downside, because with that size comes a lot more storage space, a lot more interior space. So you could argue it's a positive, and it's just something to be aware of if you're considering one of these. And if you don't need the extra space of the Model S, just stick to the Model 3. You're going to find it a lot easier car to drive around. It's going to handle better. I think it's more efficient. So yeah, number 4 is the size. I think it's a positive. However, we are fortunate enough to have the BMW i3 as well, and we use the i3 to go shopping and go in and around town when just getting into car parks and multi-stories and small car parking spaces is what we need. So ideally, best of both worlds, Model S and an i3, spot on.
Range!
So this is a 2018 75D. On a long run, I can comfortably get 200-220 miles. However, there's certain times, especially in winter, when I wish I had the 100D, which gives you just a little bit more range. I think going forward, I think that of the bigger cars like this, 220 mile range is going to be right at the bottom. I think in the future you're going to be getting 300, 400, 500 miles is going to be the norm. However, it's plenty, you know, for what we've driven it in Europe, we've driven it up to the north of England, we've driven it in the winter, we've driven it in the summer. I've never had range anxiety in this car. You just plan and you just understand the car. And if you've got something like Octopus Go for energy at home in the UK, or something similar in the US, then your home charging is going to be very cheap. It cost me £3.75 to do those 220 miles. So in the winter, when the range is, you know, down into the, you know, 170-ish or whatever, you know, you just end up charging a little bit more often. But I don't do that many miles. I don't know anyone who does on a literally daily basis hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of miles. And the ones that do, they just get used to supercharging, and that's absolutely fine. When it would be a benefit to have more ranges, when you're out using the performance and the acceleration of the car. You've got to be realistic. If you're going to be driving flat out, you're going to get less miles. So a bigger battery would give you a lot more range in those scenarios as well. If you can afford it, get the 100D. When I bought this car, it was £18,000 extra to get the 100D, so there was not much chance of me doing that. And there's actually an argument that the 75D, because it's lighter and charges quicker, you don't really miss it, and it's got the performance if you really want it. I love it. It's brilliant.
It's not a performance.
So last of all, and it's a bit of a funny one, but this isn't a performance. I really would love it if it was a performance, because the advantage of the P100D is you get the 100 kilowatt hour battery, so you get the extra range, but you also get the performance benefits with that. And in an ideal world, I'll change this for a Model S Plaid, because you get even more performance, but also you'll have a lot better heating control, because these do, if you really rag them enough, they do start cutting the power to preserve the battery in terms of overheating. So, you know, a performance would give you a bit more than that, but you know, it's not a slow car. It's 4 seconds to 60. I've had it up to 140 on a runway, and it was still pulling at that speed. You know, there's a question mark of how much performance do you really need. The petrolhead in me says as much as possible, but equally, when I bought this car again, a performance was nearly twice as much money, and that just wasn't justifiable, when fundamentally it's our family car. That's the number one reason we bought this car, but everyone likes the performance. So thank you very much for watching. This is just a quick sort of roundup in a cheesy YouTuber way of the 5 things I love and 5 things I hate. Check out the other videos on my channel. I'd love it if you subscribed and had a little look around. I've got a mix of longer style review videos and a lot of sort of shorter FAQ style. If you have any questions, please comment below. I'll either answer it there and then, or I maybe do a video on it if it's a longer one. A lot of my sort of FAQ style videos will come off the back of someone asking a question in the comments, and I've done the video and send them the link to that as well. So hope you've enjoyed this. I love this car. I'm really nitpicking if I'm finding faults with it. I just want it to be even quicker. And also it'd be good to be able to get a plaid and go over and do the Nürburgring in it. So yeah, have a lovely day. Please like and subscribe, and I'll see you soon in another video. Cheers, bye bye.